Hello, my name is Tammie Busch, and I am an assistant professor, catalog and metadata librarian, and cataloging unit supervisor at Lovejoy Library on the campus of Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville. Today, I'm going to talk to you about some tools I use that I feel have helped me become a good communicator and empowering supervisor. I came to SIUE in 2019. Although I came with over 20 years of paraprofessional experience, I was a fairly new professional librarian, as I had just graduated with my MLS in December of 2017. And I also came as a very new supervisor, as I had only ever supervised students. My staff consists of 4 paraprofessionals, all with a minimum of 15 years of experience. One of the first things I did as a new supervisor is set up one-on-ones with all my staff. 2 prominent concerns came out of these one-on-ones: a history of inadequate communication and boredom with their work. As a former and recent paraprofessional myself, these concerns were very familiar. So I set myself 2 goals: learn to be a good communicator and empower my staff. I'm going to talk today about some tools I am using to help me accomplish these goals. Goal 1 was becoming a good communicator. They say a tool is only as good as its user, so I knew I needed to start with some self-reflection and self-improvement. I started by reading the book, The Accidental Library Manager. I consulted resources from ALA's Library Leadership and Management Association website, and I enrolled in a Library Juice 4-week class called Leadership Communication. As I said, I implemented one-on-ones immediately as a new supervisor, and we continue these weekly. Initially, these one-on-ones were unstructured, but the remote work arrangement as a result of the pandemic required a more structured approach. So now I use a template of questions to make sure that my staff's work is on track. We refer to these as the 9 questions. And if you're not familiar with this template of 9 questions, I have linked to them at the end of this presentation. We also have monthly meetings. I do try to respect their time and their requests that I don't make something an agenda item that can be an email. However, there have been times I've went against my better judgment and started with an email, but after several exchanges, we just ended up in a Zoom meeting anyway. So I'll admit I'm still learning there, but I think what I'm learning is I should probably just go with my gut. I also implemented a weekly lesson, and this came out of the remote work situation because I felt as if I was losing those organic teaching moments that you have in face-to-face work. We meet over Zoom every Wednesday morning for about 15 minutes. One of my research areas is how cataloging work impacts the library end user. I always try to incorporate this point into my lessons. Initially, lesson subjects were decided by me, but my staff has become more vocal. After a popular lesson on macros available in Connection, our cataloging utility, they asked for a part 2 to that lesson. And recently, they requested a lesson on Microsoft Teams. As I said, I do keep these lessons short, and my staff will eagerly offer to set the timer for me. Trello is an important part of this communication plan. If you're not familiar with Trello, it is a collaboration tool that organizes projects into boards, lists, and cards. Most of Trello's features are free to use, and the project management aspect has allowed us to send fewer emails, and it's time-saving in the sense that the communication history of a single project can be contained on a single card. Goal 2 was to empower my staff. As I said, in my initial one-on-ones, I discovered that my staff was feeling bored and undervalued. They were just kind of going through the motions and not really thinking about the positive impact their work can have upon the user experience. In technical services work especially, it is easy to feel as if your work is going unnoticed. Technical services work is going through a great deal of change right now as well. So I believe that continuing education plus skill development has better prepared my staff for the unknown. Additionally, continuing education has allowed me to really see my staff's individual strengths. As I said, I implemented weekly learning with the Wednesday lesson, but I'm always on the lookout for other relevant continuing education opportunities. Some have been free, such as an OCLC 9-module connection training that I supplemented with face-to-face review sessions, and I advocate for some. Remote work prohibited face-to-face instruction, so I advocated for a 2-part Excel webinar, which I followed up with Zoom review sessions. A very empowering learning experience occurred with our recent migration from the Voyager ILS to Alma Primo library platform. A nice feature of Alma is that it allows you to see in real time how your work looks to the Primo end user. Trello is an important part of my empowerment plan as well. On the screen is the ultimate board of Trello tips and tricks. I used this to learn more advanced features of Trello. The more we learned about Trello, the more empowering it became. However, we started small using Trello for our cataloging workflow, simply moving cards between lists and tagging them with labels and members. Remote work and the migration reduced the volume of our cataloging physical books, so we began using Trello for special projects. Trello allows you to attach documents to cards, so I could attach project directions and spreadsheets and communicate directly on a card about a project. An example of this empowerment plan in action is that recently one staff member created her own Trello board for her part in a large-scale weeding project. This was a very exciting and proud moment for me. We also use a continuing education Trello board. Initially, I was the only one adding continuing education opportunities to this board, but gradually they began adding their own and sharing suggestions among each other. Trello also keeps my staff accountable. Prior to our weekly one-on-ones, my staff must update the Trello board. This makes our one-on-ones more productive and efficient. There was definitely resistance at first to both the increased continuing education and Trello, but gradually my staff has become more comfortable with both. So your toolbox doesn't have to be filled with fancy, expensive tools. Free tools like Trello have been valuable for communication and empowerment. It has helped my staff to step out of their comfort zone, master a new skill, and encourage accountability of their work. Thank you very much.